Your name is on a spreadsheet nobody has ever seen. Not a brokerage ad, not a financial magazine, not a Reddit thread about someone who got lucky on a tech stock in 2019. Just a spreadsheet. Plain white background, black numbers, a column that has been updating itself every single month for 25 years. You are 52 years old. You started this in your late 20s, making $34,000 a year in a logistics company in a mid-sized city that nobody writes articles about. You drove a used Honda Civic with a heating system that worked on the driver's side only. You brought lunch in a bag every single day, not because you read a book about it, because the math was simple, and the math was unforgiving, and you understood the math before you understood much else. Your first investment was $200, not $200,000, not $20,000. $200 into an S&P 500 index fund on a Tuesday afternoon, sitting at your kitchen table on a laptop that took 4 minutes to boot up. You didn't tell anyone. There was nobody to tell. Your coworker Derek was buying a new truck that month. Your friend Marcus just put a deposit down on an apartment that was 40% of his take-home and was very excited about the granite countertops. Your cousin had just signed up for a timeshare in Florida after a weekend presentation and a free dinner and was explaining to the family why it was actually an investment. You put $200 into an index fund and closed the laptop and made dinner. That was the beginning. Here is what nobody tells you about investing on a modest income. The first 2 years feel like a lie you're telling yourself. $200 a month for 12 months is $2,400, plus modest returns, call it $2,500 at the end of year 1. That number doesn't feel like anything. It doesn't feel like progress. It doesn't feel like the beginning of something. It feels like a savings account with extra steps. You watched Derek drive the new truck to work every Monday, and you felt something you are not proud of now, but were honest about then. You felt stupid. Not dramatically, not in the way you said out loud, just a quiet background hum of doubt that ran underneath everything that first year. The truck was real. The granite countertops were real. The thing you were building was invisible, and invisible things are hard to believe in at year 1. You kept going anyway, not from discipline in the motivational poster sense of the word, from stubbornness, which is a different thing entirely. You had done the math. You had sat at that kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and run the numbers out to 20 years, 30 years, and what you had seen on that legal pad was enough to make the $200 feel like the only rational decision in the room, even when everything around you suggested otherwise. You got a raise in year 3, $4,000 more per year before taxes. Derek bought a bigger TV. You increased your monthly contribution to $300. Nobody noticed either decision. This is the part of the story that doesn't have a movie version. No montage, no moment where someone looks at you knowingly across a conference table. Just a spreadsheet adding a column on the first of every month and a number that is growing in a way that is entirely invisible to everyone around you. By year 5, you had $23,000 saved and invested. You were 33. Marcus was complaining about his car payment and his credit card rate in a gym membership he hadn't used since February. You sat across from him at lunch and listened and said the right things and picked up the check because you could and because it wasn't the moment for any other kind of conversation. There is never a moment for that other conversation. You learn this early, and it saves you a great deal of friction.
The market dropped in year 6. Dropped hard. The kind of drop that makes the news and makes people at dinner parties say things like, "I got out before it got bad," with a confidence that is not supported by the actual sequence of events. Your portfolio lost $6,200 in 11 weeks. You had never watched a number go down before. Not like that. Not money you had made. Real money. Lunch money and gas money. And the money you didn't spend on the TV Derek bought, watching it subtract itself from a screen, while people on television explained with great seriousness why this was the new reality. You didn't sell, not because you were brave, because you had done the math, because you understood at a level that was now cellular that selling after a drop is not protecting yourself, it is choosing to make make the loss permanent. You had read enough to know that the people who got out before it got bad were mostly telling a story they had constructed after the fact, and the people who stayed in, quiet and unmoving while everyone else was catastrophizing, were the ones whose spreadsheets recovered. You added $50 to your monthly contribution during the worst month of the drop. You told nobody. By year 10, you had $89,000. You were 38. You still drove a Honda, second one by then, 4 years old when you bought it, paid cash, no monthly payment. The heating system worked on both sides. Small upgrade. Your company had a 401k match that you had been maximizing since year 2, which meant that for every dollar you put in up to a certain percentage, the company added 50 cents. Free money. The kind of thing that is explained once at onboarding and then forgotten by most people within a calendar year. You had not forgotten. Derek was leasing now. Different truck, newer model, because leasing meant the payment was lower, even though the math on leasing is a particular kind of quiet disaster that looks like a deal until you run it out over 10 years and understand that you are renting a depreciating object indefinitely in exchange for the feeling of always driving something new. You drove your 4-year-old Honda and said nothing about leasing. There are things you stop saying around year 7, not out of arrogance, out of accuracy. You learn that money conversations with people who aren't thinking about money the same way you are don't go anywhere useful. They don't end in insight. They end in defensiveness or in a kind of distance that damages something between you and the other person. So you learn to say less. You learn to ask questions and listen, and let the conversation go wherever it needs to go without inserting the part where you've been investing $400 a month for the better part of a decade, and the number on your spreadsheet just crossed 6 figures. You learn that silence on this subject is not dishonesty. It is just the only version of the friendship that works. Year 13. Your father got sick. Not the quick kind, the slow kind, the kind that requires decisions and arrangements and the particular exhaustion that comes from managing someone else's life while maintaining your own. You took 3 weeks off work without using PTO because you had enough in your emergency fund to cover it. This is the thing about building quietly over a long time. The payoff is not always a number on a screen. Sometimes the payoff is 3 weeks with your father, at a moment when 3 weeks was the only thing that mattered, and you did not have to make a single financial calculation to take it. You don't put that in the spreadsheet. Some things don't fit in columns. By year 15, you had $210,000. You were 43. You had switched jobs twice, always negotiating salary with the quiet confidence of someone who does not need the job to survive the month, which is a different posture entirely when negotiating when the rent is due. You had taken a role that paid slightly less than your previous one because the culture was better and the commute was shorter, and 40 minutes a day back is 40 minutes a day, and you had done the math on what 40 minutes compounded across a year was worth. The math said, take the job. You took the job. Marcus was in a second apartment by then, more expensive than the first, the granite countertops upgraded to quartz. He was not saving, not meaningfully. He talked sometimes about starting, about getting serious, about doing what you did but starting now, which is a sentence you have heard many times from many people, and which means something different depending on whether the person saying it follows it up with any action. You didn't say that. You said that starting now was better than not starting, which is true, which you meant. Year 17. The company offered early retirement packages to a group of senior staff. You were not in that group. You were not eligible. But you sat in the meeting where they announced it, and you did the math on your own situation. And what you calculated was interesting. You could not retire at 45, but you could survive 6 months unemployed without borrowing anything from anyone. You could turn down a bad job because you needed the money. You could negotiate without desperation. You could make decisions that were about your life and not about your account balance.
That is not early retirement. That is something quieter and more powerful. That is the difference between a person who works because they want to and a person who works because they have no alternative. From the outside, those two people look identical. From the inside, they are not the same same experience at all. You kept going. $300 a month became $500. $500 became $700 when you paid off the Honda and rerouted the payment. The Honda by then was 11 years old and ran without complaint and required nothing from you except oil changes and the occasional tire and the willingness to be the person in the parking lot with the 11-year-old Honda, which you had made your peace with somewhere around year 8. Year 21. Derek's truck was repossessed. Not dramatically. These things don't happen dramatically. They happen quietly, and then you hear about them through someone else. And there is a version of you that wants to say something, and a wiser version that understands there is nothing to say, and that the moment for the useful conversation was 15 years ago, and even then it probably would not have landed. You said nothing. You drove your Honda. By year 23, you had $580,000. The spreadsheet was not dramatic about it. The number appeared on the first of the month the same way it always had. Black text, white background, the column updating the way it had updated every month for 23 years. You sat with it for a while. You thought about the Tuesday afternoon at the kitchen table, the laptop that took 4 minutes to boot, the $200, the moment you closed the laptop and made dinner and told nobody because there was nothing to tell yet. There was something in your chest that was not pride and not relief. It was recognition, the feeling of seeing a face you had been trying to remember for a very long time. Year 25. You are 52 years old. The spreadsheet says $741,000. Not because you made exceptional money, not because you got in early on something that exploded, not because you had a mentor or a moment or an inheritance or a strategy more sophisticated than this. Invest consistently, increase the amount when you can, don't sell when it drops, don't stop when it feels pointless, drive the car that is already paid for. That is the entire strategy. It fits on one line, and it took 25 years, and it worked in a way that nothing flashy in your general vicinity has worked for anyone you know. Marcus called last week. He's starting a Roth IRA. He is 51. He found an article that explained compound interest, and he called you because you always seemed like you knew about this stuff, and he wanted to know if it was too late. You told him it was not too late. You told him to start with whatever he could. You told him that the amount mattered less than the consistency, and the consistency mattered less than just beginning. He said he wished he had done it sooner. You said, a lot of people do. You did not tell him about the spreadsheet. You did not tell him about the $741,000. Not because you were hiding it, not out of performance, because the number is not the point. In telling him the number would make it about the number, and the number is not what changed your life. What changed your life was a Tuesday, a laptop, $200, and the decision to do it again the following month, and the month after that, and every month for 25 years without waiting to feel ready, or waiting to have more, or waiting for anyone to tell you you were on the right track. Nobody told you. You just kept going. Your spreadsheet updates on the first of every month. It will update again in 12 days. The column will get longer. Nobody will know. That's exactly how you built it. That's exactly how it works.